Weekas Can Corley agus Carmfall to Quick and Janador Eileen Flynn agus Gowan Weekas Freshen as number to Dainta on tourist show freshen. I want to thank the committee for bringing forward this report. When we talk about the issues that are affecting the travelling community, many people are shocked to learn of the stark realities facing that community. And it's good to see the volume of statistics presented so clearly in this report. And I want to refer to some of them if I can. Suicide is the cause of 11% of deaths in the travelling community. It's an incredible figure. And according to information supplied to the committee by the Department of Health, the mortality rate for respiratory disease is 7.5 times higher among male travellers than it is in the general population. And it's 5.4 times higher amongst female travellers. This report also shows significant differentials in mortality from cancer, cardiovascular disease, and health issues in general. And regarding infant mortality rates, the ICGP reports that per 1,000 live births, infant mortality rate in the general population is 3.9, whereas amongst travellers it's 14.1, which is absolutely shocking and a terrible indictment of what's happening in this society. And when it comes to mental health, is there any wonder that the situation is so dire? The state has, over the last number of years, undertaken a concerted effort to stop travellers from travelling. In 1963, we had the Commission on Itinerancy, which recommended assimilation of travellers into the settled community. In 1983, we had the report on the Travelling People Review Body, which reported that integration of travellers into mainstream society, but without properly recognising, supporting or promoting their cultural identity. Then we had the Housing Act in 1992 and the Roads Act the following years, and these acts allowed local authorities to remove travellers from their camps on the roadside. And these are just some of the examples of the way that the state has systematically tried to stop travellers from travelling and force them into housing. And this was a direct and concerted attack on traveller culture. And if we look at human rights abuses internationally against minorities, they typically follow the same type of trend. A minority is typically discriminated against and told that they must become more like us if they are to be welcomed and included in society. And we aim to oppose this narrative wholeheartedly. Travellers should be made to feel welcome and included in our country, society and democracy, and there should be no preconditions whatsoever to that inclusivity. For years, this state, through its laws and practices, have suggested that travellers can only be included in society if they abandon this culture, and it's time that we recognise that that was absolutely wrong. I've heard some fantastic speeches here today, but speeches mean nothing unless there's changes within society, and especially I want to point to the fact of local authorities, because all of the political parties here have influence of what's happening at local authorities around the country. I've done a lot of work over the last number of years at looking at the funds that are spent on traveller accommodation in each local authority around the country, and it has been amazing at a time of housing and crisis that many of those local authorities year after year have returned that funding to central government in Dublin. I cannot understand how in a housing crisis there can be local authorities continuously returning funds back to Dublin. It has changed recently, and I was hoping that that change would be positive. Minister O'Brien has taken over this role now in the department, and the system is that there's a central pot of money, and that's provided by government, and local authorities can extract that money for traveller accommodation. But now it's impossible through FOI or through parliamentary question to actually find out what local authorities are sending that money back or are not drawing down that money at the moment. There's a problem with the culture in certain county and city councils where councillors do not want to engage on the topic of traveller accommodation because they see that topic as divisive. And this shows cowardice, in my view, on the part of some politicians who clearly want to keep their seats and feel that there's a cost in doing so if they provide money to traveller families for homes. In Galway, we saw tensions build so much that some people set fire to a house that had been designated for a traveller family. And after that incident, some of the politicians who were involved in stirring up that hatred went scrambling from that campaign pretty quickly. And it does take hatred to strike a match in that regards. And it's utterly shameful for what happened. And I want to commend Deputy Eamon O'Queeve, who stood up very strongly against that hatred and stood with the Delaney family. I don't have long left to speak, but I just want to, at this point, remember a friend of mine, Michael McDonough, who died recently. Michael was a tireless advocate of travellers' rights. He was a founder and manager of Meath Travellers Workshop, and the contribution that he has made to society was absolutely huge, from helping travellers engage with education to helping families who were struggling with life. He was an absolute gentleman, and he'll be sorely missed in Navan and the wider Meath area. And our thoughts and prayers are with Nell and his children. And I know that Michael would have agreed a lot with the key points that we need to improve the life experiences of travellers, but that we should do so in a way that it doesn't mean that they have to abandon their culture. Ar yeas dé go raibh anna míleas gur míle mágad.